Hey everyone, my name is Clare Davis. I'm 22 and I'm an art student, and I make a lot of comic and cartoon art. I work traditionally sometimes. You can see in this picture I'm holding a painting that I did, but I also do a lot of work digitally. And today I wanted to show you a pretty cool program called Fire Alpaca that lets you do digital work like I do. But before I get to that, I want to show you a few examples of my own digital work. So this first one is a design I made for a shirt that I printed, and it was done completely on the computer. It's a cat who lifts. The second one is a page from a comic I drew. The piece is a little old, but it was a short story about a superhero, and I actually drew this entire thing in Fire Alpaca, which is the program that I'm going to be showing you. And the last piece isn't digital art yet. This is a sketch that I drew with pencil and pen. You can kind of see the pencil marks all around it. So here in the dress and everything. But I drew this, and then I took a really nice photo of it and made it black and white. And after that, I was able to add digital color to it and turn it into this. Okay, but that's just some examples of my art. Now we can get into Fire Alpaca. So you can see right now, Fire Alpaca is the only program on my computer. It looks like this. It's got this little alpaca surrounded by fire. So I'm going to just double click it to open it. And then when it opens, you see this little ad window that pops open. We don't need to worry about that right now, so we're just going to press OK at the bottom to close it. Okay, and the first thing we want to do is create a new canvas so we have something to draw on. So we're going to go up here to the right, and where it says File, we're going to click on that right here, and we're going to press New. Okay. And it comes up with all these options. There's kind of a lot of them, but we just want something pretty basic. So we're gonna go here to where it says paper size, and we're gonna click on A4, which is just the normal size of a regular piece of printer paper. And where it says resolution, we're gonna click on 350 and keep it at that. And where it says color, we're gonna have the color be white. Okay, and once you've done all that, you don't need to worry about any of the other settings. You're gonna press OK, and it makes your canvas. Okay, so now we have our canvas, and it only has one layer. You can see right over here that this says layer 1, and on the left, you can see that we have a color wheel that we can use to select the color we want to draw with. So I could do red, blue, green, and anything kind of in between depending on how I mix the colors. Okay, and then here, all the way on the left, we have this bar of tools that we can use. I'm going to go over some of them. And the first one is this top one, which is the brush tool. So this very first button that I have selected. And then if you look down in the corner down here, you can see that there are a bunch of different options for what type of brush I want. And for now, we're just going to stick with the pen, but you can see we have pencil, we have watercolor, airbrush, and all these options will give you kind of a different style of brush. But we're just going to do pen. And what we're going to worry about right now is this slider right here, this very first blue bar, because what that does for us is it can change the size of the brush. So if I slide it down, the brush is going to get really small, and if I slide it up, the brush gets bigger. And you can see in the center of the canvas, it's increasing in size. It only goes up to 1,000, but that's kind of big anyway. Probably want something like this. Okay. And then using my tablet pen, you guys should have your own tablet pen. And I'll choose a color that I like, maybe like purple. I can use that brush to draw whatever I want, just like as if I was drawing on a piece of paper. So there's an undo button as well. If I don't like something that I drew and or I made a mistake, I can just press undo and it all goes away, right? So I'm gonna draw something really simple. I'll just draw a cat, just like that, right? Oh, it doesn't look very happy. Okay, but that brings us to the second tool, which is the eraser. So right under the brush, looking at this bar again on the left, is the eraser tool, and it looks like a little eraser. And the eraser tool just does exactly what it sounds like it can do. With the eraser tool, you can change the size as well, and you can erase anything that you just put down. So I can erase the cat as well. Okay, and he's gone. So yeah, eraser tool, pen tool, pretty straightforward. And there's another cool tool that we have, which is called the fill tool. So that is this tool right here. It's the 6th button down, and it's shaped like a little paint bucket. And what that tool does is it's gonna fill up any sort of closed shape. So if I select pink and I take the bucket tool and I just click it on the canvas, it's gonna fill up the whole canvas, just like that. So now the whole canvas is pink. But if I have any sort of closed shape down, or if I've drawn a shape with a pen tool, so let me go back to pen and get a black pen, and I'm gonna draw just a closed shape. So this is a closed shape, there's no gaps, and then I go back to the fill tool, and we'll do blue now, and click on it. It's gonna fill in that shape, the whole shape, without going outside of the lines, right? So it's just an easy way to put down color really quickly. And then the last tool that I'm going to talk about is the shape tool. So right above the bucket, just where we were, is going to be the little shape tool. It's shaped like a dark rectangle. And what that lets you do is create any sort of shape that you'd want to. So right now it's set to rectangle. I'm going to go to green. And if I click with my pen and I drag, I can create any size of rectangle. It could be long and skinny. It could be a square, because squares are rectangles too. And then I'm going to let go, and it makes that shape, right? And if you want, you can change it to ellipses, which is just means an oval. So we'll go yellow, and I can do an oval, or I can do a circle and make that shape as well. And then the last option here is polygon, which basically just means that you're going to be able to make any shape that has a bunch of straight sides. So with the polygon tool, you can just make as many lines as you want, and you're just tapping once to set each of those lines down. And then when you get to the end, you're going to double tap, and it's going to fill that shape in, right? So the polygon tool is kind of a little bit more complex, but it allows you to make any sort of shape that you want, as long as that shape has all straight sides. Okay, so those are the basic tools that we have. There are a lot of other tools. You can see there's a bunch in this bar that you can experiment with, but those are the ones to start off with. Now I want to talk a little bit about layers. So like I said before, in the very beginning, here on the right side, you can see that we have one layer, and it's colored blue, so we know that it's selected, and that's the layer that we're working on right now. But if I want to, I can come down here and I can hit this button that looks like a little piece of paper, and I can make another layer on top of it. So I just hit that button and you can see that layer 2 appeared. So now I have 2 layers. Layer 1, which has all the stuff that we've been working on so far. And I can hit this little circle next to it to make it disappear and appear. And I'm not deleting it, it's just making it invisible and visible again. But yeah, I have 2 layers. And I'm going to go and select, and now I'm on layer 2. And the cool thing about layers is that they can't affect each other. So anything that I do on layer 2 isn't going to affect what I do on layer 1. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to take the eraser tool, right? I'm going to make it super big. So that's a super big eraser. And I'm going around, you can see my little icon moving all around. I'm trying to erase, but it's not doing anything, right? And that's because I'm on layer 2, and the things that I'm trying to erase are on layer 1. Now if I go back down to layer 1, I can erase whatever I want. So, and I'll undo that because I didn't actually want to erase it. So what's on layer 2 is different from what's on layer 1, and they can't affect each other. But because layer 2 is on top of layer 1, the things that are in layer 2 will show up on top of the things that are in layer 1. So let me take the rectangle tool again, and let's go for a color that I haven't really used, so maybe like a dark blue. And I'm gonna put a rectangle here. Okay, I just put a rectangle here, and if you look over here on the right, you can see that the blue rectangle has shown up, and it's in layer 2, not in layer 1. And it showed up, and it's on top of my things, but it didn't delete them, it's just sitting on top. So if I click this button to make the layer invisible, you can see that the bottom layer is still there. And then visible again, it's just sitting on top. And I can also make another layer. So I'll make another layer, and I'll do a green circle on this layer. Right? Okay, now I have 3 layers, and you can see my first layer with everything that we started out with. My second layer has the blue box, and my third layer has the green circle. And because the third layer is at the top, the green circle is on the very top of the drawing. But maybe I want the blue square to be on top of the green circle, right? Well, I'm in luck because I can change the order of my layers. So my blue square is on layer 2, and my green circle is on layer 3. But if I want layer 2 with the blue square to be on top, I can just take it, I'm going to tap on it with my pen, and I'm going to drag it up, and you can see this little blue highlight appearing, meaning that it's going to move there. And I move it there, and now you just saw that change. The blue square is on top of the green circle, right? And I can move it back. So I can take layer 3, and I can move it back to the top, and the green circle moves back on top of the blue square. So that's how layers allow you to kind of move them around and change things, change what's on top, change what's being hidden without affecting what's on the layers. So you don't have to mess up what's on the layers or draw over what's on the other layers if you're doing everything on a new one, right? But also remember, if the whole layer is filled and it goes to the top, you can't see anything that's underneath it. So this layer, this very first layer that I had, we filled it all up with pink, right? And before that, it was filled all up with white. So if I move this layer all the way to the top, I can't see the green circle. They're still there. You can see them right there. And the blue square, it's still there, but I can't see it because layer 1, which is all filled, is on top and it's covering them both up. And I'll move it back down, and you can see they're still there, right? Good. So only layers that are transparent will show what's underneath them. So if you look closely at layer 2 and layer 3, you can see this kind of checkerboard pattern around them. That checkerboard pattern means that there's nothing there, and so whatever is checkerboard, you're going to be able to see through, and see through to what's underneath it. And then if I want to delete a layer, so maybe I don't want the green circle anymore, I can just go down here to this little trash can icon and click it, and the layer deletes. Make sure that you're selected on the layer that you want to delete, because you don't want to accidentally delete the wrong one. But if you do, you can always press undo. Okay, so the layers and the tools can get confusing really fast because there's so many of them, but really the best way to learn how to use Fire Alpaca is just to practice and keep experimenting. There are a lot of things to discover in the program and a lot of things you can do with it. But the last thing that I'm going to do is show you how to save an image. So this is my final piece of art. It's beautiful, if I do say so myself. And I want to save it. But there are two types of saving in this program. So the first type of saving is if you want to come back and keep working on this piece at a different time. So maybe class is over, but I'm not done with this and I want to come back tomorrow and work on the piece. If that's the case, I'm going to go up here, I'm going to click File, the same place that I did for a new canvas, and I'm going to click Save, right? And I'm just going to save it as my name and an underscore and my class letter and number, which we'll say that it's A3. And I'm going to look down here and see this little bar here that says firealpaca.mdp. What that means is that you're saving this file as a Fire Alpaca or an MDP file. And so that means that only the Fire Alpaca program will be able to open this file. You won't be able to open it anywhere else that doesn't have the program, and you won't be able to print it or anything. But when you do open it, it's going to have all these layers. It's going to have these 3 layers just the way that they were. And you're going to be able to continue to work on it and edit it just like you were now. So I'll press save. Okay, and it's been saved as a Fire Alpaca file. But maybe I'm done with the piece and I don't want to work on it anymore, so that's what the second type of saving is for. So when you've completely finished a piece, instead of hitting save, you're going to want to go to File and hit Save As, right? And when you do that, you want to go down to this box that we were pointing out before, and instead of firealpaca.mdp, you want to hit PNG. And you're going to hit PNG, you're still going to title it the same thing, and now you're going to press save. This little box is going to pop up, and you're going to say okay. Another box is going to pop up and you're going to say okay to that too. And so what this just did is saved it in a format where it can be opened anywhere, not just in Fire Alpaca. You can open it places, you can print it, but also what it did to make that possible was it flattened the picture down and it merged all 3 of these layers together. So if I open up this image, you can see that all 3 of the layers over here on the right have been merged together. So now it's just a PNG. The layers aren't distinct. They're not different from each other. But it doesn't matter because I'm done with the image and I'm not going to edit anymore, right? So that's Fire Alpaca. Those are the basics. I hope you have fun playing around with it and learning more about how it works.